Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. Today, we're doing an update about one of the most talked about credit building strategies in the personal finance space, and that's going to be the Navy Federal Pledge Loan. Some people call it the Navy Federal Pledge Loan hack. However, this is not really a hack, it's just a very simple, smart strategy. And when you understand how credit actually works, you start to realize why so many people have used this method to help improve their credit score. It can also strengthen your internal score with Navy Federal and position you for bigger approvals down the road. I'll explain what a pledge loan is, how it works, why it helps, and who I think it's best for. I'll also cover how to use it the right way, what mistakes to avoid, and finally how this can fit into a larger credit building game plan. I also want to talk about how this strategy can work together with newer tools, because in 2026, if you're serious about building your credit, you need to understand how to stack strategies instead of just relying on one thing. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Let's start by defining exactly what a pledge loan is. Now, a Navy Federal Pledge Loan is a secured installment loan. That means the loan is backed by your own money. So in simple terms, you're using your own savings as collateral in order to create a loan that will report to all three major credit bureaus. That's why this strategy is so powerful, especially for people who are rebuilding or establishing credit, or even just trying to strengthen a thin credit profile. Think about it like this. A secure credit card helps you because it gives you access to revolving credit while using your own money as a deposit. A pledge loan works in a very similar way, except instead of a revolving credit account, it gives you an installment loan. And that matters because your credit score is comprised of multiple factors, and later I'll explain how this particular account will help maximize a majority of those factors. Now, let's actually walk through how this works. First, you need to be a member of Navy Federal. This is a non-negotiable. If you're not a member, you cannot get a Navy Federal pledge loan. A lot of people think they have to be in the military to join, which is true, but there are a lot of ways for you to qualify. For example, if you have an immediate family member who served in the military or they're currently serving, then you can join through them. This will include your parents, your siblings, your grandparents, your children, your spouse, your stepchildren, or even adopted children and also grandchildren. You can qualify through them even if they're no longer active. Now, if you share a household with someone who's also a Navy Federal member, or they're affiliated with the military like a roommate who serves, or even a spouse, they can also help you get eligible to get an account. That individual can provide you with something called an access code, and that can help you enroll. Now, if you work as a civilian for the Department of Defense, or if you're a contractor or part of the DoD support staff, you are also eligible. Also, veterans of any branch can also help you join. People also use something called the backdoor method, although it's not really a secret or anything like that, it's just underused. So if you have a family member who served in the military but they have passed away, you can still join. For example, let's say you have a grandfather that served in the Navy years ago. Even if he's no longer alive, you can still call Navy Federal, let them know his branch, let them know when he served, and explain the relationship. In most cases, you don't need to provide any sort of paperwork or anything like that, just some basic information. They should be able to verify that for you internally, and then you will be able to become a member. However, you want to keep in mind that approval criteria are subject to change. Now back to the pledge loan. The second thing you need to have is funds available. Since this is a secured loan, the amount that you're going to borrow is tied to the amount of money that you're putting up as collateral. So if you want a $3,000 pledge loan, you'll need to have $3,000. If you want a $10,000 pledge loan, then you will need to have $10,000. You'll also need to call Navy Federal at 1-888-842-6328. Now, the money that you have will be used as collateral. You will need to deposit that in a savings account with Navy Federal, and depending on the amount that you deposit, that will determine the length of this loan. So to recap, you do need to be a member of Navy Federal, then you'll have to add money into a savings account. Once you do that, you will need to call Navy Federal and actually create this loan. They will ask you to transfer the funds into the savings account if they're not already there. In a few days, the loan will be added and created. You will see this appear in your Navy Federal online account. They will also put the same amount that you used as collateral back into your checking account. You will now have a loan that reports to all 3 major credit bureaus, and this will be an installment loan. Now, that will be the entire process of how this loan works. And the final thing that you'll need to do is pay a percentage of the loan. But before we discuss that, let's go over a few other details that you should know. Now, you can only have up to 4 pledge loans per Navy Federal savings account. Once a pledge loan is fully paid off, the credit building benefits from that account end. So that's why longer term pledge loans tend to be better for this strategy. A lot of people assume that paying something off completely will always help their credit score, but that's not how it works at all. Credit is established by showing how well you manage debt responsibly over time, not how fast you pay debt off. In fact, paying debt fast would normally cause a credit score to drop. Your credit report is essentially a record of how well you make payments on active accounts. Once an account is closed or paid off, you no longer get credit score increases from that account. That's why pledge loans often give people a nice score boost, especially when they're trying to position themselves for lower interest rates on things like auto loans or other financing. The real value of a pledge loan comes from stretching it over a long period of time. Now, Navy Federal allows pledge loans for as long as 180 months, which is 15 years. That can be very powerful for credit building because of 2 major factors of your credit score. The first one is on-time payment history. This accounts for 35% of your overall credit score, in particular, your FICO credit score. This will also be the biggest factor of this credit scoring model. And the second one, which is length of credit history, that's 15% of your overall credit score, and we'll come back to this breakdown towards the end. Now, here is how the pledge loan terms generally break down. For a pledge loan from $250 to $500, the maximum term is 6 months at 2% APR. For $501 to $1,000, the term is 12 months at 2% APR. From $1,001 to $1,500, the term is 18 months at 2% APR. For $1,501 to $2,000, the term is 24 months at 2% APR. For $2,001 to $3,000, the term is 36 months at 2% APR. And once you get up to $3,001, you can go up to 60 months at 2% APR. And finally, if you want terms from 61 months all the way up to 180 months, you can do this with $3,001 and anything above that. However, the APR will increase slightly to 3%. In my opinion, the best option is usually the longer term loan. So if you were to get a pledge loan for $3,001 or more than that, you can stretch that out to 180 months. So you're potentially setting yourself up for 15 years of positive payment history. The account continues aging over time, which can also strengthen your overall credit profile by adding some age. And this is why I don't think most people need multiple pledge loans. In many cases, one long-term pledge loan is the better move. Also, just to reiterate, you need to keep in mind that you cannot apply for a Navy Federal pledge loan online. So you can either go into a branch or you need to call. And that's important because I've seen a lot of people ask this. They assume like if they go online, they'll be able to find it. But the option will not be there, not because it's gone, but those are the only 2 ways that you can apply for this. Now let's talk about the real benefits of the pledge loan. The first major benefit is that it can increase your chances of getting higher approvals on future credit products, not just with Navy Federal, but other institutions as well. Lenders look at your credit profile to decide how much they feel comfortable approving you for. If the biggest loan they see on your credit report is only a few $100s, they may be more conservative with limits that they offer you. But if they see that you have managed a much larger installment loan, that can change the way they view your credit profile. So let's say you only have a $3,000 pledge loan reporting. You may notice that when you apply for a personal loan, you may be getting approved for limits around $2,000 or $2,500. That would make a lot of sense because lenders normally approve similar amounts to what they see other lenders have given you. On the other hand, if you have a $10,000 pledge loan reporting, there's a stronger chance that lenders may feel more comfortable approving you for a larger amount, maybe let's say $8,000 to even $10,000. Showing that you can handle larger amounts of debt responsibly does give other banks and lenders more confidence in your ability to manage bigger credit lines. The second benefit is that it can help you build your internal score with Navy Federal. Now, this is a big deal, especially for people who want to grow with one institution instead of just constantly applying everywhere else. In my opinion, if you want strong personal credit card limits and you want to avoid opening too many accounts, then Navy Federal Credit Union would be a great place for you to start. For example, with Navy Federal, you can have a combined max exposure of $80,000 for their personal credit cards. I have an entire video that actually goes over how you can get this with bad credit. I highly recommend that you watch that video. I'm going to link it right here. On the business side, you can also qualify for $25,000 without documentation in most cases. Again, I have a video on this as well. I will link that video here. That means there is serious lending potential with just one institution. Now, one of the ways to position yourself for those higher limits is building that internal relationship. Navy Federal likes to see that you're using their products and services. The pledge loan is just one of those products that can strengthen your profile with them. It shows activity, responsibility, commitment to that relationship, and all of this can work in your favor when it comes time to apply for more products. The third benefit is that the pledge loan can strengthen your overall credit profile in a way that helps beyond just credit cards. Yes, it can help you get higher credit limits, but it can also help with other approvals too, like auto loans or other forms of financing. When lenders see that you've handled a larger installment balance and paid it down responsibly, that can make your profile look a lot stronger. For example, let's say you have $30,000 in savings and you use that to open a pledge loan. Then you immediately pay down most of that, let's say 80, 90, or even 95% depending on your strategy. Remember, Navy Federal puts the funds back into your checking account once the loan is created. Then you can use those same funds to pay down the pledge loan, which you then receive them back immediately in your savings account. So if you pay down, let's say 90% of a $30,000 pledge loan, you'll then get back $27,000. Essentially, all you're doing is shuffling around your own money. But now the benefit of this is that your credit report would show a large $30,000 loan with a remaining balance of $3,000. That can look extremely strong on paper because it shows both capacity and responsible payment. Then if you later apply for, let's say, an auto loan, a lender may be more likely to offer you a better approval term or even better interest rates because they can see that you have already handled a large amount of debt successfully. At the end of the day, this is why I say the pledge loan is a great strategy. I've seen people argue that secured loans or secured products are not useful, but I think they miss the point. Every financial tool has a purpose. You wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a bolt, right? You would use the right tool for the job. Credit works the exact same way. If you already have an 800 credit score and a thick credit profile, then this strategy will not really move the needle much for someone like you. But if you're newer to credit, you're trying to rebuild, or you're trying to build a stronger relationship with Navy Federal, then this can absolutely help. So don't let people discourage you. This can be helpful, but it all depends on where you are in your credit journey and what you're trying to accomplish. For the right person at the right time, this can be a very useful tool. And that's all it is. It's a tool that you can use strategically to help build your credit or even position yourself for larger approvals later and just strengthen your overall financial profile. Now, let's explain why this is called the Navy Federal Pledge Loan Hack. Now, I did get ahead of myself and I kind of explained it, but let's go over it one more time. This isn't really a hack, but I know that's what most people recognize it as. And the word hack just gets attention because it makes people feel like they're about to learn some big secret. But in reality, all this is a simple, smart strategy. So here's how the pledge loan strategy works. Once you receive your pledge loan, you immediately pay around 80 to 90% of it. That does two things. First, it can lead to a boost in your credit score because the loan is now reporting a very low balance compared to the original amount. Secondly, most of the money goes right back into your savings account, so you still keep access to your funds. That's really the whole strategy. It's simple, direct, and effective. At that point, the main cost is the interest or the APR on the loan. So for example, let's say you took out a $30,000 pledge loan at 3% APR. After paying back 90% of that pledge loan, or $27,000, you'll see the same $27,000 put right back into your savings account. Now your pledge loan has a balance left of $3,000. 3% of $3,000 is $90. Now you have a loan that could be stretched out over 15 years, giving you a very long period of on-time payment history reporting to your credit profile. And in the end, it will only cost you roughly $90. It'll actually be less than that, but let's just say roughly $90. To me, that's a bargain. You're essentially paying for a long-term positive account on your credit report while still keeping access to most of your money after you pay down the balance. One other thing to note is that Navy Federal will push your next payment due date based on how much you have already paid. So using our same example, if you were to pay 90% down of a 15-year installment loan and you did this in, let's say, May of 2026, your next payment won't be due until around October of 2039, or you can just pay off the remaining $3,000 whenever you're ready, and then you just get back all the funds. It's really up to you. And at that point, all you did was pay a very small amount in interest. That's why so many people look at this strategy as a powerful way to build credit. It's just using the system in a very smart way. Now, if you're rebuilding your credit, this can be very effective for several reasons, which comes down to how your credit score is actually calculated. When you understand the breakdown, the value of this approach starts to make a lot of sense. Now, payment history with your FICO credit score makes up 35%. That is the biggest factor of this credit scoring model. So if you set up this loan correctly and pay down most of it up front while also letting the rest report over time, you're putting yourself in a position to build a long stretch of on-time payment history. Again, if that loan is spread across 180 months, that is 15 years of payment history tied to one account. On top of that, this strategy can also help with your length of credit history, because the longer this account stays open and it's reporting, the more that it'll actually strengthen your credit profile over time, which does account for 15% of your credit score. Now, one thing I want to clarify, because sometimes I get asked this question: paying 90% or paying a majority of the pledge loan does not automatically give you all this payment history instantly. You have to actually let it report every month in order to see the true benefits of that. Then you have credit mix, which makes up 10% of your score. Now, a pledge loan helps there too, because it adds an installment account to your credit report, which gives your credit profile more variety instead of just relying on, let's say, like a credit card. This will also count towards new credit, which also makes up 10% of your overall credit score. Now, when you start adding all these categories up together, you now have payment history at 35%, credit age at 15, credit mix at 10, and new credit also at 10. This one account impacts 70% of your overall credit score. Now, one of the smartest ways to build credit today is to combine traditional credit building strategies with modern reporting tools that can add positive data to your profile. That's where something like Rising comes into play. The Navy Federal Pledge Loan is powerful because it gives you an installment account that can help with your credit mix, help with payment history, and your overall profile strength. But that doesn't mean it has to work alone. Rising is an all-in-one platform designed to help people build or rebuild credit in a more strategic way. With Rising, you can view a tri-merged credit report and scores, while also identifying negative items that may be dragging your profile down, and you can create a personalized dispute letter through their dispute hub. It also allows you to monitor bureau responses and build positive payment history by reporting on-time rent payments and utility payments. You can also back report for up to 24 months, and you can instantly receive 2 years of payment history. That's something you can't even do with the pledge loan. Rising only reports positive payment history, so it will never negatively impact your credit score. Beyond that, the platform includes a personalized action plan, score tracking, goal tracking, fast guidance on what steps to take next, education around the factors that affect your credit score, and recommendations on secure credit cards and credit building tools. At the moment, you can access your credit report for $1 through their 7-day trial. There's a link down in the description if you want to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If this is a strategy that you're using right now, I would love for you to share your experience in the comments. Let me know what the pledge loan did for you, how much did it actually increase your credit score, and whether you're thinking about starting one yourself if you haven't done so already. I would also love to hear whether you're already a Navy Federal member, or if not, how you were able to join if you recently became a member. The reason I always encourage people to share their experiences is because the more information we put together, the more people can help each other. When everyone contributes their data data points, their results, and updates information, it creates a stronger community where we all learn from each other. That way, when products change or new information comes out or fresh strategies start working, we all become a resource for one another. And that's really the goal here. I want this to be a place where people can come not only to learn from me, but also to learn from each other. So use the comments, use the community, and use the shared experiences of others to stay informed on what's happening with these products and services. And again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and you all have a wonderful day.